Evening, everybody. Does everybody have a drink, a place to sit? Are we ready to talk about childcare? Yeah, right? I know it's like not always the hot topic, so I'm glad I'm with my people. I'm Melissa Chambers. You guys have all probably seen me blow up your email, so apologies for that. Kind of, not really. I'm excited to have you all here. I'm not gonna lie, a little bit bummed that we still have so many empty chairs, but we're still having the conversation, which I think is so important. I want to take just like 5 minutes, and if everybody, we could just go around and just kind of see who all's in the room. Like I said, my name's Melissa. This is kind of what my job is lately, talking about childcare. I work for Northeast Michigan Council of Governments. I'm a regional planner, but childcare has been my focus for the past about year. So I don't know if we want to just go around. I don't think we need the microphone. It's a pretty small room just for introductions.
I'm Terry Carroll, and I work for NEMCOG also. So,
Linda Damer, also with NEMCOG, Economic Development, Talent Attraction.
We'll go in the middle.
Yeah. Matt King, President and CEO for Citizens National Bank out of Sheboygan.
Jamie Huber, Superintendent at COPESD.
Of us. From Government and Child Development Center in Sheboygan.
Just with the arrow.
Yeah, Seagull County Economic Alliance. I'm the program manager.
Sharon Lang, I'm Sheboygan County's Economic Development Coordinator. Lisa McCollum at Seagull County Economic Alliance Executive Director.
Good evening, I'm Gloria Brooks. I'm the president at Develop IASCO, the EDO for IASCO County.
I'm Claire Sherman, Business Solutions Professional with Michigan Works, IASCO County.
Patty Paya, and also with Michigan Works 7B as Business Solutions Professional, and also the EDC.
Ashley Udall, Business Solutions and Youth Programming Manager for Michigan Works Northeast Consortium.
I'm Brian Bluchart, Apprenticeship Specialist out of Northeast Michigan Works Northeast Consortium.
Marcia Wakely, I'm the Assistant Director for Property Settlement here in Grayling.
I'm Selena Laskowski, I'm the Director for Property Settlement here in Preschool of Grayling.
Hi, I'm Kathy Zenda-Wilson. I'm with Pulse in Southwest Michigan, and we're here to provide some technical assistance and support to this important work.
Maria Ortiz-Borden, also with Pulse. We're co-directors of Pulse in Southwest Michigan.
Axon Villa with the Pulse Media team. Christian Riego with the Pulse Media team as well.
I want to give a big shout out to the Pulse team. They are actually who is orchestrating all of this. It's really exciting that there's an event like this going to happen in all of the regions of the state. So that's really exciting work that it's getting such good conversation. I want to give a big thank you to all of the CEOs, business owners, managers, all of the representatives from all of these amazing companies. We wouldn't be doing this without you. Apologies if I missed putting anybody up there, but there was a lot of you, so I'm gonna run it with it. You go to the next one. Actually, we're gonna pause here and we'll go get in line to get some food, and then I will proceed. So if we all just wanna grab a good dinner, and then we'll fill our bellies and learn some stuff. 11 counties in the northeast section of Michigan. Our goal, you can see up there, is to accelerate community level efforts to develop new partnerships and implement action plans to address the childcare crisis. What does that mean? Our childcare sector is kind of broken right now, and we're trying to do something to fix it. Again, we serve the 11 counties. This is a statewide effort. Like I said, 16 different recipients of this grant. We are all working together, which is kind of cool. Like I said, the Pulse team is developing these events to make sure that we are staying connected. We had a big ECIC meeting, what was that, 2 weeks ago? Something like that. And we all, was that just last week? Oh my gosh. Just last week, which was really exciting. We all got to get together and kind of brag about all the good work we've been doing. We've been doing a lot of data collecting, a lot of planning, and we're finally to the point where we're ready to put some things into action and see some things improve. It's really exciting. We've got members of our coalition in all different sectors. We have childcare businesses, units of governments, school districts, workforce developments, parents, and a lot of other regional partners. And I think that's really exciting. Let's go back to the employer portion of this. The Pulse team developing this roadmap, it's giving us an opportunity to talk on a statewide level on ways that we can make change. Kind of going out of order here, so my notes are a little messed up. Okay, so I'm going to play a little message. As we all know, childcare is kind of a hot topic right now at the state level. So we were lucky enough to get a message from the governor, kind of telling what her goals are with this initiative. So hopefully this is loud.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about an issue that I've been focused on since day one, childcare. We know that inadequate access to affordable childcare costs Michigan $3 billion annually in economic activity. We know that 55% of Michigan kids ages 3 to 4 are not in a formal learning setting, and 44% of Michiganders are living in a childcare desert. This may not be news to you. As employers, you know that many of your employees struggle to find quality, reliable care. As child care business owners, you may be lacking the financial resources to compensate for educators equivalent to their level of skill and education. And as community leaders, we all know that if we want to grow our economy, we need to invest in child care. And that's why my administration launched Caring for My Future, which established a goal of opening or expanding 1,000 child care businesses by the end of 2024. I'm so proud that we got it done a full year ahead of schedule. We also expanded eligibility for child care subsidies and implemented a new cost-sharing model called TriShare to cut monthly costs by 2/3. We significantly expanded our free pre-K program, the Great Start Readiness Program, and are taking action towards our goal of pre-K for all 4-year-olds by the end of my second term. I'm grateful to you and so many other partners engaged in this effort. I know that together we can meet the needs of children, working families, childcare businesses, and employers.
So obviously it's not just us having this conversation. It's really exciting to see that this topic is finally, at the table for these people that can actually make a difference, right? It's not just us local people just having a tiny conversation. This is a big deal and a good time to get involved because we have partners right now. I mean, we have the governor on our side. We have community leaders on our side. So this is the time where we need to take action and try and make a difference for the people that need the help. So I have another video. This is Andy Richards, Chief Operating Officer at Duncan Aviation from down in the southern part of Michigan. He is a huge advocate for this childcare initiative, a huge champion for what we're trying to do. So we'll hear from him and see how he's using what he knows about the childcare crisis and how he's helping his employees.
We are always looking to create more of a family culture and a family atmosphere with our team members, which means not only taking great care of them and showing that we value them in our workplace, but also understand that they're a whole person who has a life outside of work. Outside of work, we know that there are stressors for our team members, and understanding what those stressors are allows us to begin to help them address those stressors, because we know when someone is stressed outside of work, it's hard for them to engage fully. And if they can't engage fully, then they're not contributing to the company at 100%. One of those stressors is the childcare challenge that we have in our local community, the lack of affordable, quality childcare. If our team members are having to make do because they can't find available childcare, they're making do with maybe relatives taking care of their children, or friends who are taking care of their children, or they're working a split shift with their spouse or partner to address childcare themselves. And if somebody gets sick, who's taking care of the child or has another obligation and they can't provide childcare that day, then that puts our team members at risk of missing work. And if they miss work, not only are they out the paycheck or the hours, but the company is also out that productivity. There's a loss of productivity as a result. Coming out of the pandemic and as part of the survey of what our team members needed, we learned that they needed some flexibility and some additional benefits. So we came up with what we call our Team Member Choice Program. And so these are additional dollars that we're giving to our team members that they can allocate as they see fit, based on what their priorities are as a team member. So they have the ability to designate those dollars to either 401k or to more paid time off or HSA or dependent care. Since we've had this program in place for the past 9 months, many of our team members have taken advantage of the dependent care option within this flexible benefits program. We've been meeting with a couple local childcare providers and finding out what their challenges are as providers. And what we've discovered is that they don't have enough caregivers. They can't find enough team members to staff their facilities. And so while they may have more capacity as far as their space is concerned, they need more employees to take care of the kids. As a result of the lack of employees, they have increased their wait times. Some families are having to wait 12 to 18 months to get a child into a child care center in our area. And so what that means is they have to be aware of the situation before they even think about having a child. They have to plan that far ahead now. So what can we do as a company to partner with these caregivers to help make sure that our team members can find a place on those wait lists to try and shorten that duration? As part of our partnership with Pulse and the Upjohn Institute, we have done some advocacy. We have signed on to a letter that has been sent to local and state government officials to let them know that we need more action and we need more resources devoted to solving this childcare crisis in our area. More companies like Duncan Aviation need to get involved in this arena if we're going to solve the problem and get the proper attention from local resources that are already available and just need to be leveraged. We know that there are stressors on our team members outside of work, and childcare is one of the biggest stressors there are. If we can solve this issue, we can ensure that our team members are more fully engaged at work and therefore more productive, and it's a win-win for both the team member and the company involved.
So it's actually really kind of funny. I've watched that video so many times, right? And I'm listening to him talk and I'm like, man, I get this on such a personal level, right? I have now a 3-year-old. I can't believe she's 3. And my daycare told me a week or 2 ago, they're like, yeah, we're going to be closed on the 13th. So I'm like, huh. So Linda, I won't be at work tomorrow because I don't have daycare. So, I mean, this happens all over. It's happening to you. It's happening to me. It's happening everywhere. So as employers, that's work I'm not going to get done tomorrow. Sorry if you're going to email me, ladies. I'm not going to be there. Don't have daycare. So, I mean, just listening to him talk and how he's helping his employees is really inspirational because as a working mom, I get the struggle, and having that support, that's amazing, right? So that's kind of what we're here to talk about. So I wanted to go into some statistics on our region specifically. So throughout this grant process, we did a lot of data collecting, and my accounting nerd side of me was really happy. We did some data collecting, a lot of surveys, a lot of interviews, which was really exciting. These numbers really speak to me. So 10,567, that's the number of children under the age of 5 in our region. The middle number is the current child care capacity, 2,024. So that's 2,024 slots. That leaves 8,543 kids without reliable childcare. So think about all of those families not having a safe, reliable place to take their kids. Thankfully, I'm part of the 2,024. Like I'm very, very fortunate, but I don't know what I would do. I mean, my family works, I don't have that option, and 8,543 families are in the same spot. So the little babies you see along there are the childcare ratios for what's considered a childcare desert. In our region, for kids under the age of 5, there's 7 children competing for 1 slot. And then under the age of 9, it's 14 kids competing for 1 slot. So summertime, I mean, imagine where all the 13 other kids are. Where are they? What are they doing in the summer? Obviously, there's different summer camps and things, but I mean, those numbers are huge. And I'm really seeing that these are kind of small, so I'm sorry. The smaller text on the side, it says the average cost of childcare in our region is $593 per month. That is $7,116 per year. I did another fun fact. If you add $500 to that, you can have a year's tuition at ACC. I think that's crazy. Sending my kid to daycare is about the same as a year of college tuition. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, so let's get back to employers. We interviewed 36 employers in our region, and we had some pretty universal themes. Employers are very aware that, I'm not going to say very, some of them are very aware of the issue. There definitely were some common things. Lack of slots, they know that it's an issue, and slots that work within the company's hours of operation. Night shift. Night shift people, good luck finding somewhere to take your children. And I mean, rightfully so. I mean, these providers, I get it. I wouldn't want to do it. Attendance. Their employees, they're missing work monthly, weekly, and sometimes even daily, depending on how big the operation is, due to childcare. And as employers, I'm sure you're thinking, well, I'm not going to put a childcare on my location. Absolutely not. I'm not getting into that ballgame. And that was a big common theme. They're like, that's just not something I can do. A lot of people said, I want to help, but I don't know how to help. Again, that's why we're here. TriShare, our TriShare ladies over there. A lot of employers would love to get involved, but maybe it's just not financially feasible for their company, or maybe they don't have enough information about it. If that's the case, come to us. The lack of childcare options affects staff recruitment and retention. I mean, those are numbers that we can pull for you. That's a fact. It is affecting recruitment left and right. If people do not have a place to take their kids for daycare, reliable early education, they're not going to come to work. Like me tomorrow. So this is another thing that I find really interesting. So this was our parent survey. So, and again, I'm really sorry for the small text. These are all percentages. The first one is employees that missed work, arrived late, or left early. 79% of them said they were doing that often. 67% said they were distracted, stressed, or worried at work. I don't think I would want 67% of my staff being distracted at work. 52% turned down a job offer, promotion, or reassignment, training, education. I mean, these are people trying to better their lives. They have to make the choice. Can't do it. I can't take on those extra hours. I don't have anywhere to take my children. And it's just heartbreaking. 51% had to leave the job, and then 29% had to reduce their hours to part-time or change their schedule. Again, as an employer, you can see how all of these things really affect your productivity and the success of your business. So what have we been doing about it? We have developed, I know it looks like a really short list. There's a lot of other things we're working on too, but one big thing we're working on, and I have a flyer in the next slide, so I'll talk about it more, is we've been working on a childcare expansion project. We're offering funding to support startups and expansions throughout the region. Something we're really excited about, our partners with Develop by ASCO and NEMSCA. We are really excited to talk about a management services organization. So what that would mean is offering services to providers to help take some stuff off their plate, help them with billing, finance, things that, the way I look at it, and I'm looking at our childcare providers in the room, like when I look at you, I hope you're a good childcare provider. I don't care if you know accounting, right? Like these are things that we want to be able to take off of their plate so they can focus on what's important, caring for children. Another really important thing we've decided is these providers need, I'm going to say kind of a spokesperson, somebody to be there where we can all come together and say, this is a problem right now in our region. Who do we talk to? What are our resources? So then we can be that home base. So another really exciting thing with us being NEMCOG, we are the nerds that do master plans and zoning ordinances. And we are working through a process to come up with some draft language for zoning to hopefully alleviate some barriers for new startups or expanding childcare. Okay, so this is the childcare, expanding childcare capacity grant that we were talking about. We have been targeting existing childcares and looking for new ones. So we have been pushing out our flyers. If you know anybody, send them our way. We are taking a portion of our grant funds to help create new slots. That's like the entire goal of this, is to create new slots. If we can get more slots available, we can help more families get back to work. So it's kind of self-explanatory. We can send the flyer around if anybody has people we can send it to. Okay. Oh, kind of cut out. Supposed to be more pictures up there. Not sure where those went. So the reason we're here, the Pulse Roadmap. We have, again, partnered with Pulse. They created a website that lists different options that employers can participate in to assist their employees. You guys all have your booklets on your tables. Something I really think is cool about it is how they kind of gave everything a level. So there's things that are, I think you guys classified them as easy wins, something like that. An easy win, something that's kind of minimal effort, but you're gonna have success. All the way up to, okay, let's get crazy and start childcare in our business. There's something that everybody can do to help their employees, even if it's just starting with a survey, to see, okay, how is this affecting my business? How is this affecting my employees? Is it something that's happening daily, or are my employees really not affected by this? I doubt it, but it could happen. So this tool is amazing for getting started, getting your foot in the door, getting the conversation started with your employees to figure out what they need to be a better employee for you. So now, Lisa, are you ready?
Yep.
We are going to hear from Lisa McComb, Executive Director of Otsego County Economic Alliance, and our Tri-Share champion. So I'm really excited.
I don't think I need that, if that's okay. Can you hear me right there?
You go.
Okay, I have a loud voice anyways. So how many of you have heard of Tri-Share? Oh, great. That's great. Okay, just a little bit about us. We're the Otsego County Economic Alliance. We've been in business for 23 years. We are a very small organization. We have 3 people that work in our office, and we do economic development, all ranges of economic development, that if you'd asked me 8 years ago, I would have never thought it would include childcare. But as we're working with employers, we're working with businesses, we're working with CEOs, outside of housing, that is the second highest challenge. Is the phrase I often refer to is, my employees are one flat tire away from not being in coming to work. That's just the way it is. So we jumped on the Tri-Share initiative 2 years ago when it was still a pilot. It is now a part and a line item, a part of the governor's budget. And we are fortunate in that when we wrote the application and be able to do this, we did it for 6 counties. So real briefly, if you can go to the next slide. I'll just really touch on what Tri-Share is. Basically, in a nutshell, it's the cost of the employee's childcare is shared equally among 3 components: the employer, the employee, and the state. Because we're a hub administrator, we actually administer the portion of the state's capacity for those employers. Next slide, please. If I'm going too fast, let me know.
We'll get it.
Oh, that's okay.
You know, it's anyway such a.
Linda, every time you touch that, it doesn't work. I know.
Last week.
I know.
Did this.
Okay, so next slide. Okay, so in Northeast Michigan, which is 11 counties from I-75 east to M55 north, we serve 6 of those counties. We are the only administrative hub under My TriShare that is providing any My TriShare services. We cover Crawford, Montmorency, Ogama, Oscoda, Otsego, and Roscommon counties. And we currently have a list of about 15 participating employers currently from all areas of the region or from those 6 counties that are utilizing this program. Next slide. Oh, and you can skip this. So employer, employee, and provider eligibility. So there are some requirements to participate in this program. Employer eligibility is that the eligible employers have to be based in an office in Michigan. And it can only be offered to employees who reside in Michigan. So we wouldn't think about that as anything really challenging, but for us, we have employers in Otsego County who bring seasonal employees in from out of state. Unfortunately, they're not able to offer that program because they're not residents of the state. Those are some restrictions that employers need to look at. Next slide. Employee eligibility. So the My TriShare program looks at federal poverty levels from 200% to 325%. So if you look at these household sizes and look at monthly income, to qualify, you have to qualify at an income level. For a 2-person household, it's between $3,400 and $5,500 a month. 3-person, it's $4,303 to $6,992. 4-person, $5,200 to $8,450. You would think that would be easy to do. We have many times had individuals who are under that and don't qualify or are over that. So with the wage scale increasing and employees making more money, we actually have people who don't qualify. They have 3 kids, they're both working full time, and they, at a 5-person income, don't qualify between $6,000 and $9,000. So unfortunately, that's a challenge that we work with. They also have to utilize a licensed childcare program. So they can't be using grandma and grandpa. They can't be having siblings take care of their children and get some sort of help with this. You have to be going to a licensed childcare program. Next slide. And then provider eligibility is just that the provider has to be licensed in the state. And it has to be a current active license. And we always check that when people submit an application. Employers say, yeah, I want to join. The employee comes in, fills out an application, says, yeah, I want to be a part of this. The next step is to make sure that wherever they're going, that provider is licensed. Next slide. So what's in it for you as a business? There are several things that we have found as we've been doing this for the last 2 years. It reduces absenteeism because, of course, you have a child care provider that the child is going to, and they're getting assistance with that expense. You can offer new high desirable benefits and improves recruitment and retention. It removes a significant barrier for the employees that you need. Provides financial relief for your employees by reducing out-of-pocket costs for childcare. It improves employee work-life family balance because, of course, the stress of that expense is gone. The Facilitator Hub really assists your business in providing that coordination. And then it attracts, it retains talent, and it makes a positive difference in your employees' lives. Next slide. I want to have Brandy stand up. Brandy is our program manager through the Economic Alliance for this program. Hopefully many of you know her, have seen her. She is handling this among other programs that we do through the Economic Alliance. I just want to share, and I didn't put this on a slide, some of the challenges for those of you that are interested or want to coordinate or get introduced into this system. And we were talking about this earlier. Some of the businesses that may be in your communities that this would be a great opportunity for are global institutions, and they have corporate offices in other states, and they want to offer the same benefit to all their employees. Unfortunately, in Otsego County, a lot of our federal poverty level qualified individuals work at Walmart, work at Meijer, work at Lowe's, work at Applebee's, work at Home Depot, and those large corporations can't offer that benefit if they're not offering it to all. So it has been challenging to have this program. Many of you may look at it and go, well, why do you only have like 15 employers? It's been difficult. It's really mainly independent business owners that take advantage of this. Some of those business owners also say, well, I have an aging staff and I may only have one person that can take advantage of this. What am I going to do for the other employees that don't, their children are grown up. They don't want to do this. It's a great question. And those are some challenges that we're up against and we often don't think about with this program that we really need to get to the next level. The other thing that we've run up against, and I did not recognize or have this information when we were first launching this program, is that because of the wage increase that we've seen overall, many of our childcare providers cannot pay that going wage right now. They can't pay that $15, $17, $18 an hour, And so you may be licensed for 12 kids. You can only take 6 because you can't pay to have another provider come in or another assistant to help you out. So even though we may have childcare providers there, they don't have openings. If you look in Otsego County, I had Brandy pull up by the counties that we serve, the number of licensed childcare providers. We have the most in Otsego County of 36. We're very blessed for that. But Melissa will probably tell you, it was probably not easy for you to get in or find a childcare provider.
I'll give you an example. With my work, there's been times, so I live in Atlanta, so that's a good 35-minute commute. My childcare is here, but I have meetings in Alpena sometimes, right? So I will bring Emma all the way to Gaylord, go all the way to Alpena, come all the way back to Gaylord to pick her up just to go back.
Yeah.
It is atrocious out there, folks.
And that's because you're limited. You're really limited. So just to show for you, so you have a sense. So Oscoda County has 3 childcare providers in their entire county. 3. Crawford has 7. Roscommon has 5. Montmorency has 4. Ogama has 12. And Otsego has 36. We have 8,000 people that commute to Gaylord every day. And of the numbers that you showed, of those, 8,500 that do not have childcare? Yeah, I don't know what these families are doing. This program, I don't want to be all negative, but this program from a positive standpoint, if you are interested or any employers are interested, let us know, because on average, it's saving our employees about $700 a month. Because by the time you look at that breakout of what they're paying a week, $150, $200 a week, and you look at that breakout by month, and then the ability for us to come in and pay a third, may not sound like a lot, but they're also having the employer pay a third. Yeah, and then all they're left with is that third. And so we've had individuals who have said, it allowed us to be able to afford Christmas. It allowed us to be able to not worry about, discretionary things like a vacation in the summer camping or dentist bills or, those kind of things. So this is a great program. I don't want to be unrealistic and let you think that it's, the solve-all. It's not, for many reasons. But if there are opportunities in your communities to do this, or as an employer, let us know. We're available to do anything we can to get into the employer or to get with the employee. about the program and let you know what that is. It is going to continue to exist. We hope that for the other 5 counties in Northeast Michigan, they will look at some exemptions for allowing childcare, tri-share to be in those counties. Right now, if you're in Alpena or you're in Sheboygan or you're in Presque Isle, unfortunately, due to legislation, when the line items came through and they're now a line item budget, they can't expand that. So we're going to have to look at getting in front of our employers to do that. Now, if you have offices, if you're working in one location and you have an office in one of the counties we serve, we can help. Any questions? I kind of blew through that really fast.
Matthew King, Citizens National Member Sheboygan. I signed up for Tri-Share like the month it was open. We've been doing it. We got 3 employees.
In Sheboygan? But do you have other locations? Do you have a corporate office in one of our locations?
Corporate office is in Sheboygan. And
do we know how that happened?
People are using it in Sheboygan.
Did you have any difficulties doing it? No. Because IOSCO, I would love for you to talk with Gloria. Okay.
Involved in it.
Oh, okay.
We signed up when it first came out during the COVID.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, 20.
We signed up in the first 30 or 60 days for it. We have 3 people use it.
Okay, I would love to have you share that or have your HR person talk to Brandy. They don't have one in Sheboygan. There's no hub administrator in Sheboygan. So who does all your processing?
We do. I mean, I just let HR take care of it. We signed up
Okay.
to the state. We got into it. So I don't know how that's working. The daycare providers submitting for their state portion of it. I don't know how that's working.
That's really exciting though, because we have other counties who have been told you can't do it. So if that's happening in a non-hub, which it is, because they don't have a hub there, I would love to talk to your HR person. Okay, because that may be an opportunity to get other counties involved. That's awesome. Yeah, because right now what we have is, so as I talked about, we're like 8,000, we have 8,000 people that commute to Gaylord. And the problem is that people are traveling 60 to 90 miles to work. So if we can get additional tri-share opportunities out there in all our region, then those people who are living in Sheboygan and commuting to Gaylord and going back don't have to worry about where their children are if they can benefit from the program and have that taken care of in Sheboygan. We've been told with Sheboygan that we can't assist anyone and that there's no way to get them in the program. So that's great. Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Yeah, and I'll reach out, to others of you too and share what I can on that, because it's been a struggle for us with the other counties that aren't, and having to tell people we'd love to have you in the program, but unfortunately you can't do that. So any questions? Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
I do have an addition to that. So I think you made a comment about where are all of these people taking their kids?
Yeah.
Like I said, I had the privilege to speak to many parents and providers. And unfortunately, and this is just kind of a heartbreaking story that I always have to share when I have the opportunity. People are being taken. We have some amazing providers here. Like, I know these amazing business owners do great things for the community. But there are so many people that aren't on that path, that they're just going unlicensed. And a lot of horror stories have come from these people that don't have a good opportunity to get into a good, reputable program. And this hurts my stomach to even talk about. I've heard of kids being literally locked in closets. It is, like I said, it's scary out there, folks. And the more that we can do at this level and offer assistance to the folks that need it, it's such an important topic. And at the end of the day, these are babies that we're talking about here. They deserve our attention, our time, to be frank, our money, and everything. As a mom, we're all family. You know what? It hurts my heart. So now, actually, we're gonna have Kathy come. We're gonna do a little fun survey portion. So if you can all get out your phones, scan this QR code. We're gonna have a little activity. I'm gonna hand it over.
Thanks. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Kathy Zenda-Wilson with Pulse. I hope you appreciate, typically when you cover these things, they say put your phones away. So right now we're going to ask you to actually play with them.
And I'm going to give you a second to get that up and see if it pulls up for you. So for those of you who don't know, open your camera and then this should pop up as an option to go to. All right, I'll give you a second. So, this topic, well, I hear some employers concerned that if I do this for some employees and not others, it will not feel equal. There's going to be issues around people feeling like they were left behind. And the employers I've worked with from across the state who have actually employed some of the strategies that we have on the roadmap have said that everyone benefits, even those who don't have children, because their coworkers are able to show up fully. They're there and they're able to contribute in ways that they weren't before. So it's a season of somebody's life, which is part of the challenge of childcare, is that once your children, my baby's going to be 25 in a month, so it's been a minute since I've had to worry about care. So when it's not part of your life every single day, it's easy to forget how challenging it is. And so when you're not in that place, as we talk to CEOs who say, we actually had a CEO say to us, I have an all-male staff, so we don't have a childcare issue. Thank you for responding that way, right? Because guess what? Men have kids. But we do have a mindset issue, right? There's a lot of bias out there about whose responsibility it is. So this is an equity issue from that perspective. We also had a group of CEOs in Battle Creek that legitimately thought that the issue was with people they couldn't attract to come to work, because they thought, well, it's just the people who aren't here that are having the issues. And when they did their surveys, which I cannot encourage enough, they found that wasn't the case. Up to 65% of their employees in one of our employers was actively seeking care. They made it work, they got to work, but it wasn't ideal. And so they were creating a quilt out of what, my cousin Beth can watch them, every third Tuesday, and then I've got my mom on a day, and they're pulling it together as they can. Some folks are taking advantage of the free preschool that they might qualify for, but it's only 4 days a week for limited time, and it's not holidays or summers. So that's also huge gaps in where are those kids going. And I appreciate that we looked at 0 to 5 here, but how many of you have raised children that are over 5 and not yet 12? Like, they really can't be alone either. So this is a bigger issue than just that. But what we do know is that children who are infants and toddlers are the most expensive to care for. And that's appropriate because they need more adults, they need more supervision, they need more care. And those are the most expensive to actually serve. And so we have to make sure that we are looking at this full spectrum of care, and that we're looking at the reality that much like many of you as employers have talent challenges, so do our childcare businesses. So we have some in the room. Are you fully staffed?
No.
You are not?
Almost.
Almost. But then it could change any day.
Exactly.
Right? So this is an issue beyond just families not being able to provide care. Some of the reason for that access issue is because we have a very vulnerable workforce in childcare. They're not paid well because there's just no profit margin in childcare. It's not a model that works. And I have sat with CEOs who said, maybe we just need to teach these business care child owners how to run a business. So we brought to them what the actual business model looks like so they could appreciate that there's maybe a 1% to 2% margin of profit. Maybe if you're doing it really well and but that's with paying your folks poverty wages. Right? So we have to do better. And this is going to have to require all of us, private and public, to contribute in some way. So you as employers have a really key role to play, because you can soften the load for some of your employees by providing some resources. I encourage you strongly to start with the survey so you know what the needs are of your employees, and that you can work from a place of knowledge. And so we're going to get into some questions for you that I'm going to have you.
Everybody gotten the QR?
Is everybody in Mentimeter? Okay. So we're going to get into some questions that I encourage you to have a little bit of dialogue at your table before you type stuff into the Mentimeter, and then we're going to look at what your responses are. So first of all, people are already doing it. So you have the questions on your phone because you're in Mentimeter, but how does it make you feel? All right, so let's look at this one for a second here. It is very concerning, right? Which is appropriate. This is not, so they're in, Maria and I are both systems change experts. That's what we are qualified to do. And There is something called a wicked problem. Anybody here ever hear that term? Like technically hear that term? We all know what wicked is, but wicked problems in the systems change world just means that they have lots of different root causes, right? That it's a challenge to solve because not one solution exists. You're going to have to think of multiple solutions. TriShare is one solution. It's not the only solution. We just, recognized all of the challenges that go with it, but it's a great start. We have in the city of Kalamazoo, down where we are, they decided that those folks who work at the Meijer gas station or at Speedway or working in some sort of retail that don't have the opportunity to have an employer who could participate in TriShare, they're covering that employer part themselves. So it's only in targeted neighborhoods for specific families, but if you don't qualify through your employer, they're covering that third. So some communities are getting really creative about how they allocate resources to support people participating in what we have. All right, so let's see what else. Informed, helpful, confused. Confused as to what to do, confused by all of this information. Is it not blend with what you want? Anybody want to share? It looks like it was you, yes.
I'm confused. I don't understand why they don't make more parts on helping them be able to pay their people well and putting their children first.
Amen.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I hear it in school, but what about childcare before they get to school?
Yeah, I had the honor of providing testimony to at a joint hearing in Lansing last week. It was the Leo Appropriations Committee as well as the Labor Committee, and we were talking about the workforce specifically. And they can't decide among themselves whose job it is to pay for it. So we have to come up with a solution, right? Which is what the plans are about. It's about us telling Lansing, here is what we need to actually fix this. We're going to have to iterate because, again, there's no one solution, but we have to think about what are the things we need more of. And if we can pay K-12 teachers a decent rate, I'm married to a retired high school teacher. We survived well enough with both of us working, right? But there are lobbyists that, teachers benefit from having a union that speaks on their behalf, that really, advocates for that. We don't have a voice. It's the invisible foundation for all of our economy has no voice right now. So we have to really, figure out how we're going to support them in a way that brings them more prosperity than they have right now. Because when you talk to the folks that are working in this, we have a program down in Battle Creek that we're piloting. It's a housing incentive program for early childhood professionals. And so if you work in a particular center and you commit to 3 years in the sector in Battle Creek, you can get $600 of your rent paid for 1 year. And so it's meant really just to take the pressure off of them financially on something that is one of their biggest expenses, right? So in November, we brought all of the participants together and did one-on-one interviews and asked them what it meant for them to have this support. They said, first of all, I feel seen. It's really honored to even be a part of this. And then it's heartbreaking to hear one woman that I interviewed in particular said, I took my credit score from in the 200s up to the 600s this last year. And I'm like, bravo. What did you do? And if you don't mind me asking, what was the debt that you were carrying that was so hard to get out from under? And it was all medical debt. So these are folks that not only aren't making enough money, they're also they don't have the benefits that provide them health care. And so they're waiting until they have to go to the emergency department, and then they're accruing debt that they can't get out from under. And so there was another woman that I interviewed who said, my kids got to play soccer for the first time ever. Or, I got a winter coat for my kid. Things that many of us in the working world take for granted. And these are folks that do really, really important work. So the first thing we could do is start by honoring them, right? Acknowledge that it's real work and not just babysitting. That it's not something that's just, you're just going to play with kids. Learning begins at birth. We know this. We understand child development enough now to know that these are professionals who are doing work that is really hard. So thank you all those of you who work in childcare right here. Thank you for being here. All right, so something else here, helpless. I hope you don't feel helpless. There are things we can do. And like any wicked problem, you have to start with some small wins. Take a look at the roadmap when you leave here tonight. Just spend some time even with your HR groups, for those of you who have them, and talk about what could we do. We have a myriad of options that people try down in Southwest Michigan. Some simply put a link on their website and help people get connected to the available care there is. You guys are in a serious desert up here. I saw the numbers. That's hard. So contributing to building supply is really important, and I'm glad that you were doing that. I want to talk to you a little bit more about that offline. Okay, next question.
This is new to me, so apologies.
And I just stand up here, so don't ask me how to do it. I don't know how to do it either. All right, so what role do you have as an employer in supporting childcare development in your community? So we don't have any responses yet, so let's get all those in there. And so the options for those of you who aren't in there right now is not really my problem. I care a little bit. I'm neutral. I want to help, but I'm not sure how. Employers need to take action and get involved. We've got a couple people saying that employers have a role. This is good. You know, we've hosted 3 CEO events in Southwest Michigan now, and what we heard overwhelmingly in the beginning was, stop asking us to do something we don't know what to do. And so that's when the Pulse Roadmap was born. It was like, okay, you don't have the tools you need. Here are the tools. And so now we're providing technical assistance to the employers to say, let us help you walk through this. So one of our biggest champions in Southwest Michigan is Duncan Aviation. You saw them on the screen earlier. And Andy and his team have now developed a relationship with a childcare provider in Battle Creek that they're going to allocate, they're guaranteeing a certain number of spots. So they're paying for 10 slots at this childcare center that they know will then stabilize that childcare business, but also provide ample time for their employees to not have to be on wait lists. He's got folks as part of his workforce that are saying, I have to know 2 years ahead of the time I'm getting pregnant to get on a list. Like, my life isn't just, it's not that easy, right? And so he wants to remove that barrier for people who want to become parents. And so we helped them uncover helped him get introduced to those childcare providers. That's a role we could play, those of us who support employers. And also figure out, like, if your interest is in stabilizing not just your workforce, but the childcare sector as a whole, get in touch with Melissa. Figure out what you could do to actually work on this at a bigger level. The letters that Andy and a couple others wrote to the legislature it was their own words. They're like, listen, as large employers in this state, we really demand that you take more action. So the more we can raise up, you guys are at tables that we're not at in early childhood. So the more you can talk about this and bring this up, the more our legislators hear about it, and the more they know it's critically important. All right, so we've got somebody who's neutral. I'm glad we're all on that side of the spectrum, though, so that's good. I think some people, if this is the first time you're hearing about any of this, being neutral about it or feeling like you're not sure what to do is valid, right? You're going to need more information before you figure out what you need to do. All right, the next question. How confident are you that you fully understand the childcare challenges facing your workforce? So how many of you have a pulse on that right now?
No intended pulse.
I know. Well, I'll rename that for a reason.
Love.
Thanks. This is good. Yeah. Yeah, we've got a not very confident. That's good too. It's important to know. All right, so for those who are not very confident, that's where the survey will be really, really helpful. For those of you who think you know, validate that and survey your folks. So Pulse is part of the Upjohn Institute for Employment Research down in Kalamazoo. And we have been supporting these surveys all over the place and realized that our own employer hadn't done one. So we are, right? What do they say? It's the cobbler's family has no shoes or whatever it is, right? We just didn't even think about, well, we should probably do this. And we are the home of the Michigan Works in our region. So we have a vast array of people. We have academics who work in the research arm. We have the people who are working in operations for Michigan Works. There's a huge variety of that. So we are conducting our survey right now. And for those who are concerned, this was a concern that some of our employers had initially when we came up with the survey, was if I am asking my employees this question, they're going to assume that I'm going to do something about it. And I'm not sure I'm committed to that yet. So there's cover for you. Let me tell you, there's some cover for you. Because how we positioned every one of these, and for 2 of our employers locally, we had our economic development partners actually do the actual survey. So it said, Battle Creek Unlimited is asking you these questions because they'd like to know the state of early childhood and childcare in the region. Please contribute your thoughts in this way. We were able to disaggregate the data and get it to specific employers, but they knew it was for a larger purpose, right? So the survey itself is customizable. So if there's language in there that you want to add, you could do it yourself, Melissa, if you wanted to do it. Just figure out a way to do it. And guess what? People are okay with that. They actually, what we got back from Andy Richards himself said it was unnecessary. The cover they thought they needed was unnecessary because people just felt valued by being asked. It's like, we know that this is a problem for you. We don't know what we're going to do about it, but we can't do anything if we don't know what the issue is. And so they use the data to really help inform that. Okay. And the next question, do we have one more or two more? Okay. My company's workforce recruitment and retention efforts are impacted by the lack of childcare availability. And this is, a Likert scale from strongly agree to strongly disagree. Yeah, the unsure is really valid, right? How often do we ask? How would we know?
I actually love the unsure answers because it's such a good place to start.
It is.
Not to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
I love the unsure because it's like,
Yep.
let me figure that out.
Let's get curious.
Gives you some motivation.
For sure. So has anybody here ever heard of CalSec? It's a spice company down in Kalamazoo. I didn't know they existed until I went and visited, but they have an on-site childcare there. It's interesting because not everybody can do that. It is the Taj Mahal of all options. It's not anything we actually recommend for folks because it's very costly. It takes a lot of time and it requires a level of investment and subsidy to keep going. But they have said, when you listen to their CEO and their board, it's a family-owned company, how valuable it is for them because they get the option of, and they have a campus, right? So they've got a separate building that they use for childcare. It's got an entire outdoor space. And they talk about how they're growing future scientists because that's who they hire. So they knew that childcare was a barrier for them with retention because they get people from all over the world. So depending on what your business is and who you're trying to attract to do it, there are some benefits. Whirlpool, which is in Benton Harbor, which is also in our region, they brought in Childcare to open a center on their campus, but it's only for their executives. It's not for anyone else, which is right. I shook my head too. Thank you for that response. But it was an attraction tool specifically. So it wasn't about retaining people. It wasn't about supporting the folks that are making the least at Whirlpool. That was just their approach, right? They get to choose how they spend their money, and that's how they chose to do it. But there are different things that you can learn out there. Patagonia has a really good model too. They wrote a whole book about it, how they brought childcare into their businesses. It isn't for everybody, but it is something that folks can consider when they're thinking about it. Okay, so last question, I think. Which recommendation would have the most impact on your workforce? And so these are the options or the opportunities that you see listed in the book in front of you. So we're just curious what you think would be of the most help. Just a story while you're responding to that is that we've had several champions who've said to us their biggest concern after doing their assessments or their surveys has been around backup care. Mm-hmm. So just like what you were talking about, Melissa, the day that you get called off and you don't have a place for your child to go, what do? And so we're trying to work with some local childcare business owners to figure out what does backup care look like for them from a business model. That would require, again, that employers typically would invest in that center and hold a certain number of slots because you can't depend each day to decide how many backup kids you can get because you have to be staffed appropriately, right? So it costs money to hold those slots. And so if it's important enough to us, then we have to invest in it. The other thing that we heard about investing in childcare businesses, specifically in holding slots, is that you typically end up having to pay over the market rate. Otherwise, they don't need you. They don't need your slots, right? I mean, they're typically, most of our childcare centers are pretty full based on who they have. So there's got to be some incentive for them to hold those spots for you, and typically they'll pay just slightly more. So it just depends. All right, so what do we have? Childcare reserved in a reserved provider for your employees. The other benefit of that I want to say, along with flexible schedules, dependent care, and backup care, is that it gives families options because we need to let families choose. It is a deeply personal decision, about where you're going to have your kids spend their time when you're working. And so if you only have one option for folks and you're saying you can only go to this center, or we have it on site and that's the only place that we're going to support, it does take away that family choice. So I'm really excited to see these options here. And the other thing that has been coming up that we're going to start adding to, I think lifting up a little bit more in the roadmap, is this idea of extended leave and really looking at your family leave policies. Because we have heard from a lot of folks, okay, there's a few things. If you, when you have a baby, it is the most expensive and hardest to find care, because infants are, as we shared earlier, very expensive to care for. But it's also really beneficial for the family if the parents can be with the baby for an extended amount of time. There's enough data that suggests this, right? And so it's hard on the employer to be able to pick up the work that's not being done by the person that's gone, but we know that people are looking for that when they're looking for employers of choice. What is your leave policy, and is it sufficient enough for me to want to work for you when I have children? So we have a lot of our champions in Southwest Michigan looking at that right now and reevaluating their leave policies to see if there's more that they could do. So I know that's not on here, but it's one that's important too. And it can kind of lend itself to the flexible schedules. All right, did we have another question, or is that it?
Remember, to be honest.
That's the open-ended one. What are ways you and other employers can get involved? So any suggestions that you have beyond what you've heard here, or to validate some of the things you've heard? Yes.
Just would have a general comment. Oftentimes when I listen to these things, if I'm being honest, coming from a county of less than 25,000, in a city primarily of less than or just over 5,000, I often go, yeah, this makes sense. I understand what you're saying, but there still is a disconnect in the continuation and a fissure in how that translates to my rural communities in Sheboygan County.
Yeah.
And so, we just are not a space that has large-scale employers. We don't benefit from some of the volume that Gaylord's experiencing or others. And so we really, there are a lot of missing links from a county. And I'd love to hear that on a macro level, I as a county guiding force can help activate a survey to take the temperature of the childcare situation, because really our employers, we value our employers. They have 2 employees, they have 4. We're not talking about folks that have 20 or 30 or 50 or 100. Right. We literally are a network of mom and pop shops that are just working to make it. Matt's, and there are a few of us here from the Sheboygan County area, I think, shaking heads and understanding that. So that, just to make that comment, if I could, in directing, is that rural connection always is such a struggle.
I want to
because this does not speak to what I can do on the ground.
I want to totally lift this up. We had, like I was talking about, our big statewide meeting down in Lansing, and all of these amazing, like all of the Detroits of the state and all of the larger companies, they're coming up with some amazing things. They're making such traction, and I'm like, I live in Montmorency County. Let's be honest. What are we doing in Montmorency County to make a difference in this realm? Like, I just want to voice that you are 100% valid.
But so outside of my capacity is, so I'm the economic development coordinator, right? But on a micro level, I own a couple of downtown businesses in Sheboygan. I own a little restaurant, bar. It's family owned and operated. Literally last summer, I had a bartender present. She was in medical care, had a child, could not stay as a medical professional because she did not have childcare. Her husband would do the night shift. She gave up her profession. Came to me to bartend, but she couldn't work until her husband got released from his construction job. So I, as an employer, opened my bar, tended bar-ish, for the first hour until maybe whenever it was that she felt as not only a new mom, but a nursing new mom, couldn't make it to work that day. So, I mean, we are creating solutions as employers, and there are things like that. And then that takes me back around to some of the numbers. Real time, I have a developer who's looking at a big scale project, doesn't care what goes into it. One of the big questions we see coming out of Lansing, there are funds for childcare. Is that nonprofit or for-profit? So I think sometimes that's miscommunicated or not as well communicated to our providers as possible. But then also, where are these numbers falling? Is there really a demand? So I'm looking and I'm saying, okay, we have 10,567 children in my area of that age, 2,024 spots, but how is that data aggregated? What's the real demand where I can go to a developer and say, you know what?
How many of those are working?
I know we have a gap and there's a need, and maybe that then goes back to data collection, but my employers aren't going to do that. I'm going to have to do that kind of. It really is a really tricky cycle as we try to raise the tide of our county.
Yeah. So thank you. And I think part of our challenge, even in Region 8 in Southwest Michigan, is that we have some deeply rural areas as well. And so it is such a spectrum from the Kalamazoo's and the Battle Creeks of the world that have an infrastructure that can support this and large employers, to places where I think in Cass County there were, I don't even know the number of people. It was 80% of the families have to go outside of the county to find care. Right. And so then we had a family in Albion, which is just the east side of Calhoun County, who was driving to Jackson, which I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, driving all the way to Jackson to drop her child off at childcare and then coming back to Albion to work because there were no childcare centers in Albion at all. So I get that there is, in the idea of employers and their different sizes and what they can do, I think there's going to have to be some creativity. Also just some advocacy, like who do you belong to from a small business perspective that could advocate for you that this is an issue that's important. We have to build supply so that the people who can do the work for you have the support they need. How are we encouraging folks to start childcare businesses so that we don't have such a demand issue? And so some of it is maybe not going to directly impact your employees right now, but it's like, how are we working on the system to make sure that we have what everyone needs? And it is going to be different. And one of our recommendations in our plan that we will have done in the next month are county level implementation teams for this very reason. Each county has its own struggles and is going to have to come up with some of its own recommendations and strategies that work for them, that are like deeply seated in what their county can actually handle and manage. Because we don't profess sitting in Battle Creek that we know what's best for every one of the 7 counties in our region. We think it's best for them. We have some macro level recommendations that people can then personalize and customize for what their experience is in their county. But thank you for lifting that up. I think it also gives me pause to make sure that I'm not speaking about this as though it's universal, because it's not. I think that we can share what our experiences are and where we've had success. But that does matter on the size of the employer. All of our champions are large employers. I can name one small manufacturing firm, though, in Battle Creek, small-ish, right? Comparatively, I'm not sure. I think they have roughly 50 employees, and they were turning people over. And when the owner, who's on site and is actually part of the day-to-day operations, was recognizing a pattern, he looked at his workforce and recognized for the first time that his entire workforce was made up of working moms with school-age children. And he said, people are leaving because school starts too late for when my shift starts, and then they have to leave early because they don't have a way for any place for their kids to go after school. He altered his schedule so it's only during the school day, and he doesn't lose any people now. He didn't pay them anymore. He couldn't, obviously it's going to impact some level of production because he's not open the same number of hours, but he thought as a cost saving, because it cost him so much every time he had to turn an employee over, that he would end up benefiting in the long run. So he got really creative with what he did have at his disposal, which was, I can alter my hours, which is something you did also, right? You had to adjust for one employee to make it work for one. Yeah. So imagine, right? So this is a wicked problem. Back to my issue. It's going to require a myriad of solutions that all of us can contribute to. But thank you for that. So what we hear is communicate openly with your employees on their needs, survey staff to identify their needs. So we are here as a resource. We'll continue to work with Melissa. I think all of us planners and with Gloria across the state are going to stay connected to each other to make sure that we're lifting all of this work up at a state level as well, so that we can create change that will hopefully impact everyone and not just certain folks. So I want to thank you for allowing us to be with you here today, and I'm going to hand it back over to Melissa. Thank you.
So I just want to say another thank you to Kathy. I always love listening to you speak about childcare, because you can see the passion and you can see the drive, and we have a lot of partners that have that same emotion and feeling, because it is an issue. It's affecting you, it's affecting me, it's affecting all of us at the end of the day. Is there any other just overall questions, statements? I hope you guys were able to take something out of this and bring it back to your community, whether you're a business owner, economic development. I think we've had some good conversation. Is there anything else anybody has? No, that's okay too. All right, I thank you guys so much for coming. That's all I have for you today. Hopefully you got your bellies full and hopefully can say you learned something. So let's see what we can do to make a difference in childcare. So thank you guys.